A very good evening. Welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Ashing Sunny Veerasinghe. Let's have a look at the headlines first. Curfew in Colombo, Gampaha and Kalutara extended until further notice after being identified as high-risk zones for COVID-19. WHO warns coronavirus pandemic is accelerating and urges aggressive strategies to fight against it. News in detail. The Presidential Media Division says that the curfew imposed in the Colombo, Gampaha and Kalutara districts will continue until further notice, as those areas have been identified as high-risk zones for COVID-19. Meanwhile, a group of 311 individuals arrived in Sri Lanka from Iran, Italy and South Korea who underwent the 14-day quarantine period at quarantine centres left for their homes today. Thus, the curfew in Colombo, Gampaha, Puttalam and the 5 districts of the northern province, which was temporarily lifted at 6 a.m. today, was reinforced with a 2-hour extension at 2 p.m. Meanwhile, the President's Media Division today afternoon informed that Colombo, Gampaha and Kalutara districts have been identified as high-risk areas for coronavirus or COVID-19, and hence the curfew imposed on those districts will continue until further notice. Subsequently, it is noted that the health officers have observed large crowds near groceries, supermarkets and other food stalls during the time the curfew was lifted. Health officers say that such large congregation hinders the entire efforts on controlling the spread of the virus. At this juncture, the government has instructed the wholesale traders such as Sathosa, Keels, Apiko, Lavs, Aralia and Nipuna and other wholesale traders to facilitate delivery service to the consumers. The government also ensures the continuous supply of essential services such as medicine and gas. On the other hand, Health Promotion Bureau noted that number of total COVID-19 confirmed cases as of today 4:30 p.m. is 101 with 4 new cases identified. Moving on, a group of 311 individuals arrived in Sri Lanka from Iran, Italy and South Korea who underwent the 14-day quarantine period at quarantine centres left for their homes today. Sri Lanka Army said that 108 persons were released from the Kandakadu quarantine centre, while 203 were released from the Poonani quarantine centre. World Health Organization warns that the coronavirus pandemic is accelerating as more than 350,000 cases have been confirmed worldwide. However, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, addressing the daily media briefing on COVID-19 held at WHO headquarters in Switzerland, highlighted that collaborative efforts can change the trajectory of this pandemic.
More than 300,000 cases of COVID-19 have now been reported to WHO from almost every country in the world. That's heartbreaking. The pandemic is accelerating. It took 67 days from the first reported case to reach the first 100,000 cases, 11 days for the second 100,000 cases, and just 4 days for the third 100,000 cases. You can see how the virus is accelerating. But we're not prisoners to statistics. We're not helpless bystanders. We can change the trajectory of this pandemic. Numbers matter because they're not just numbers. They are people whose lives and families have been turned upside down.
Addressing further, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus noted that the governments should prioritize in safeguarding the health services amidst containing the pandemic, since they are the main engine of the healing process. Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus also emphasized that proper research and development on the COVID-19, which is already in the process, will help to find solutions to the pandemic.
Health workers can only do their jobs effectively when they can do their jobs safely. We continue to hear alarming reports from around the world of large numbers of infections among health workers. Even if we do everything else right, If we don't prioritize protecting health workers, many people will die because the health worker who could have saved their lives is sick. It's great to see the level of energy now being directed to research and development against COVID-19. Small observational and non-randomized studies will not give us the answers we need. Using untested medicines without the right evidence could raise false hope and even do more harm than good and cause a shortage of essential medicines that are needed to treat other diseases.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, with the powers vested in him yesterday, directed a wide array of relief measures to people undergoing various hardships due to the prevailing situation erupted by the coronavirus. Thus, all these concessions came into effect from yesterday itself. Accordingly, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa directed the Governor of Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the secretaries of all ministries, chief secretaries of all provincial councils and the heads of all banks, financial institutions and leasing companies to take the appropriate steps accordingly. Thus, some of the key relief measures are as following: extending all payments on income and VAT taxes, driving license renewal fees, all bills on water and electricity, assessment taxes and bank checks valued less than 15,000 rupees and repayment of all credit cards below the limit 50,000 rupees until the 30th April this year. Giving a 6-month moratorium on the leasing loan installments of all three-wheelers. A moratorium on loan installments until 30th May 2020 from salaries of all public and private sector employees except Board of Directors. A 3-month moratorium on all personal bank and leasing loan installments of value less than 1 million rupees. Depositing the March trainee allowance of 20,000 rupees of all graduates selected for employment into their respective bank accounts. Doubling the Agrahar insurance benefits for all health police, civil defense and all government servants engaged in controlling the spread of COVID-19. A 6-month debit moratorium on tourism, garment and small and medium industries and for Central Bank of Sri Lanka to re-evaluate the finances. All bank branches to provide their full services to customers when curfew is not in effect. Sri Lanka ports, customs and other related institutions to release without any interruption to relevant entities food and essentials such as fertilizers, medicines and fuel. To provide interest-free loans of 10,000 rupees to Samurdhi recipients and Samurdhi card holders through all Samurdhi bank associations. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa pledged to contribute to the SAARC COVID-19 emergency fund via $5 million. During the video conference of the SAARC leaders, Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi proposed the emergency fund with an initial bid of $10 million from India. Meanwhile, Indian Premier Narendra Modi appreciated Sri Lanka's efforts on combating COVID-19 with the financial assistance allocated to the SAARC COVID-19 emergency fund. Stay tuned for more news after this short break. Welcome back after the break. A special COVID-19 healthcare and social security fund has been established by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The Presidential Secretariat also announces that people are allowed to make donations for the fund. The COVID-19 Healthcare and Social Security Fund set up by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa yesterday will strengthen the activities aimed at controlling the spread of the coronavirus in the country and related social welfare programs. The President's Media Division said that 100 million rupees is to be donated from the President's Fund for this purpose. A special bank account has also been opened for the fund at the corporate branch of the Bank of Ceylon. Local and foreign donors can make donations for account number 85737373 at the corporate branch of the Bank of Ceylon. Meanwhile, President's Media Division announced that donations will be exempted from tax and foreign exchange regulations and deposits could also be made through checks or telegraphic transfers. They pointed out that several other countries have also established similar funds to help their people recover from the unexpected impact from the COVID-19 outbreak. World Bank Group President David Malpass says that the World Bank could deploy nearly 150 billion US dollars in resources over the next 15 months to aid developing countries fight and recover from COVID-19. David Malpass, in a statement to G20 finance ministers and central bank governors released by the World Bank, requested G20 creditor nations to allow the poorest countries to suspend all payments on bilateral debt while they battle the virus. Malpass said the poorest countries should be allowed to concentrate their resources on their health responses to the crisis. Furthermore, he said in a statement, quote, I'm calling on the G20 leaders to allow the poorest countries to suspend all repayments of official bilateral credit until the World Bank and the IMF have made a full assessment of their reconstruction and financing needs. Quote out. Malpass also said that the World Bank is now formulating projects in 49 countries to help fight the virus under a new fast-track credit facility, and decisions on as many as 16 of these projects are expected this week. The US ambassador to Sri Lanka and Maldives, Elena B. Teplitz, in a message posted on Twitter, urged Americans in Sri Lanka and Maldives to return home. The ambassador Teplitz said that despite the efforts taken by health authorities in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, the situation is tough and challenging.
I have a message for Americans who might be in these beautiful islands. There is a global Level 4 health advisory. Now is the time to consider travel options and to return home. Despite the heroic efforts of healthcare workers globally and in Sri Lanka and in Maldives, it's a tough and challenging situation. Flights are changing daily, there are cancellations, you need to make arrangements. The United States Embassy is here to help. There's information on our website and you can call us. Please be in touch. We want to make sure that you can depart and return to your loved ones in the United States.
With that, we are wrapping up today's news. Let us all wash our hands and stay safe at homes. Join us tomorrow on State of Business at the same time. Until then, take care. Have a good night.